In the heart of a living and unpredictable forest, there was a secret corner where time seemed to move more slowly. Between the thick, intertwined roots of an ancient tree lived a mother rat with her two young ones. The shelter was small, but it carried silence, warmth, and memory. Inside, light barely entered, but she could see everything clearly, like every mother who learns to feel before she sees. That morning was born strange. The air was still, the scent of the earth seemed muffled, and even the birds did not dare to sing. She woke up before the first rays touched the treetops. She stayed still for a few minutes, listening to the forest breathe. The young ones were still asleep, curled up together, and she looked at them with a tenderness that hurt. She felt a subtle tightness in her chest, a premonition that had no shape but had weight. And without saying a word, she knew that day was going to test everything she had taught them. The mother rat was a creature of simple wisdom, shaped by many winters and unforgettable scares. Her way of teaching was direct, firm, but full of tenderness. She showed them how to smell danger in the air, how to listen to the sound of silence, how to disappear among dry leaves when something big approached. But there was one lesson she repeated more often than the others, as if it were the most important of all: have faith, even when everything seems lost. For her, faith was not just a comfort, it was an invisible force that held you up when your body wanted to give in. The older son listened to this like someone listens to a map. He took note with his eyes, memorized it with his heart, and made rituals with every word. The younger one, however, kept everything in silence. He didn't question, but he also didn't follow the rules. His faith was light, almost imperceptible, like the wind that guides without pushing. The mother saw these contrasts and didn't correct either of them. She just hoped that when the time came, each would know what to do. The day moved slowly, as if time itself were hesitating. The forest, which usually vibrated with sounds and movements, now seemed suspended. No branch cracking, no familiar buzzing. It was the youngest who felt it first. A dry, strange heat creeping along the ground like an invisible snake. The mother perked up her ears. The smell of smoke was still subtle but real. When the first cracks began, wood breaking, leaves burning in the distance, she understood the fire was coming toward them. Without a fuss, she woke the young ones. The older one's eyes widened immediately, a reflection of the rigidity he carried in his chest. He began to mentally repeat the prayers his mother had taught him. The younger one, still frightened, stayed silent. There was no map for this, no rule that would help. The whole forest seemed to tremble, and time, which had hesitated before, now ran. The fire spread with a living fury, as if the forest were being devoured from within. Branches cracked, animals ran in opposite directions, and the air began to thin. In the face of this, each young one reacted with what was inside them. The older one, overtaken by the faith he believed was protection, knelt on the ground of dry leaves. He squeezed his eyes shut, whispered prayers fervently, and waited. He waited for faith to protect him. He waited for his mother's teachings to be enough. The younger one felt the fear and ran with it. Not against it, but with it. He dodged falling trunks, passed through dark clearings, felt the smoke burn his lungs, but he kept going. He didn't think about anything, he just acted. Not because he didn't believe, but because he believed in another way. His faith was movement. It was the certainty that even without a guarantee of reaching safety, he needed to try. And that is what kept him alive. When the fire finally ceased, the silence that remained was not the same as before. It was a heavy silence, full of loss, as if the forest were trying to understand what had just happened. The youngest, exhausted and covered in soot, dragged his body through the ashes. Every step hurt, but he breathed. He was still there. His first impulse was to look for his brother. He walked in circles, calling softly, until he found a figure standing among the remains of what had once been shelter. The older one was standing, but not whole. His gaze seemed trapped at some point in the past, as if still waiting for the prayers to turn. Back time. There were no visible injuries, but the pain was different. He looked at his brother with lost eyes and murmured, "I did everything right. So why?" That question hung in the air, unanswered, because sometimes even faith doesn't have an answer. The way back to the mother was slow, made of pauses and silences. The older one walked with difficulty, as if carrying more than his own body. The younger one, although also hurt, seemed guided by a quiet strength, as if something inside him was telling him that there was still a safe place waiting. When they finally arrived at the nest, the mother rat was waiting. She looked at them with eyes that had seen much, yet still felt moved. She didn't ask anything. She simply embraced them, one on each side pressed against her chest, as they had when they were little. After a while, the older one spoke. His voice was hoarse, almost a lament. "Why didn't faith protect me?" The mother didn't answer immediately. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and then said calmly, "Faith is not a promise that nothing will happen. It's what keeps you standing when everything happens." The older brother lowered his eyes. That sentence entered him slowly, like a seed that doesn't yet know if it will sprout. For the first time, he didn't feel ashamed of being confused. The faith he had always carried had been a shield, something he used to feel in control, to push away uncertainty. Now he realized that pain crossed even those who pray. Sincerely, he felt betrayed, not by faith, but by the expectation he had placed on it. The mother continued speaking, without imposing truths, simply sharing what life had taught her. Faith doesn't avoid the fire. It helps you go through it. It's not about escaping unharmed. It's about continuing even when everything around you turns to ashes. The younger one listened in silence, but something in his gaze said that he already understood this, not with words, but with his body, with instincts, with the trust that made him run when everything was burning. That night, no one slept. The forest still smoldered, and the sky, covered in ashes, seemed closer to the ground. The mother rat, between her two sons, stayed awake, as if her presence could keep the whole world together for a few more hours. The older one, for the first time, didn't pray before closing his eyes. He didn't cry either. He simply stayed there, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The younger one, with his body pressed against hers, fell asleep with the peaceful breath of someone who doesn't need to understand everything to rest. The mother looked at both of them and understood that each of them had learned something that cannot be taught with words. In the silence of that rebuilt shelter, something subtle was forming. It wasn't relief, nor peace. It was a new kind of faith, one that didn't come from fear, nor from the need for certainties, but from the deep acceptance that to live is also to go through what we can't control. In the days that followed, the forest began to slowly rebirth. Timid shoots appeared among the burned trunks, and the smell of wet earth returned to compete with the scent of ashes. The younger brother spent hours exploring the surroundings, silent, attentive, as if recognizing the importance of walking through that wounded place. The older one walked slowly, with short steps, observing everything with new eyes. He had lost the fear of fire, but he had also lost the illusion that faith was a contract with luck. He still said prayers, but now in a low voice, not to ask for protection, but to thank for still being there. Each day, he understood a little more of what his mother had said. The faith that saved him now was no longer the one that avoided suffering. It was the one that helped him keep going after it. One morning, while gathering leaves to rebuild the shelter, the older brother saw the younger one sitting on a stone, looking at the sky. He wasn't doing anything, he wasn't saying anything. He was just looking. That image stayed with him for long seconds. For the first time, he didn't feel that it was a waste of time. It was as if the younger brother was praying in his own way, a prayer without words, a connection without effort. He approached slowly and sat next to him. Neither of them said anything, and yet everything was said. It was there, in that shared silence, that their faith met. A faith without form, without rituals, but full of presence. A faith that fit the moment, the breath, the now. That afternoon, the mother rat watched her two sons from a distance. She didn't say anything, didn't interrupt. She just looked at them with a full heart. They were no longer the same ones she had protected under the roots. Something had changed inside. A new stillness, a deeper gaze, less anxious for answers. The older one now walked with more ease, not because he had overcome the pain, but because he had learned to carry it without it crushing him. And the younger one, who had always had a silent faith, was now becoming a point of balance. Not because he was wiser, but because he trusted in what he couldn't control. The mother rat knew that fire had burned many things, but it had also revealed what was essential. Faith wasn't about avoiding losses, it was about moving forward, even when everything inside you says to stop. At the end of the day, they returned to the new nest. Simpler, more exposed, but full of meaning. They ate little, spoke even less. And before sleeping, the older brother did something he had never done. He took his younger brother's paw. He didn't say anything, he just held it. It was a small gesture, but there was everything in it. Recognition, gratitude, love. When the mother rat closed her eyes that night, she felt that despite all the fear, she had won. Not because she saved her sons from suffering, but because she taught them to stay standing after it. And deep down, perhaps that's what true faith does. It doesn't keep us from the fire, but transforms us from within until we're able to walk with courage, even when everything still seems in ruins. Perhaps you have also felt this. That sensation that even doing everything right, things still collapse. Having faith and still finding yourself in the middle of the fire, following the teachings with hope and still feeling lost. But what if true faith isn't about avoiding pain, but about continuing to walk with an open heart, even when everything seems dark? Have you ever gone through a moment like that, something that made you rethink what it means to have faith? Share in the comments. What does faith mean to you today? Or better, what kept you standing when everything seemed to fall apart?